What's up, guys? This is Rise and welcome to another video. Recently I competed in the Louisville Regional Championships and made a quite impressive run. We go pretty far in the tournament, and I'm going to give you a full breakdown of all the matches I had on stream, how the tournament went, some other thoughts and such. And we are going to go through some exciting battles and what ended up being probably the most stacked top cut of all time in the Pokemon Go Championship Series. So without further ado, let's just hop straight into it. And I think a good way to kick things off is to show you the bracket first. So the bracket is always on this website called Challenge for these regional championships. And I was in Group D, which means I was the 4th overall seed. So we have Group A here. Out of Pocket was the 1st overall seed. Dunebug was the 2nd overall seed. Tomahawk, traveling from the UK, was the 3rd seed. And I was the number 4 seed here. I had 2 matches off stream before I got on stream, and that was against Phoenix the Boss. Super nice dude, super cool. I actually lost the first game against him in our series to an Ancient Power boost in the end. His it was a really close game. His Galarian Moltres boosted in the end to an Ancient Power, which allowed it to live 2 moves from my Ariados. Otherwise, I think I might have had him, but it would have been close either way. But I was able to change up my strategy and then win the latter 2 games. And then we go and we play MJ Get It, who's always been a really cool dude in the community, has provided like recaps back in the Silphaction days. So it was cool to play him. And we were able to get a 2-0 win against MJ Get It, which put us into round number 4, or winner semifinals, on stream of day 1. And we hop straight to it for day number 1. Mr. Wholesome, our lovely friend Softoph on the commentary, and we are playing against Toasty Pawrick here. As I mentioned, in winners round 4, so winner semis of day 1, and I think I went a little bit far ahead, so we can actually take a look at the teams. Rick, all smiles, is running Pangoro, which coming into this tournament, I knew was going to be one of my threats. But first off, let's just look at my team. Shadow Drapion, Dunsparce, Diggersby, along with Azumarill, Ariados, and Talonflame. So in this current Open Great League Play Pokemon format, this is a relatively standard team. Can I turn the quality up a little bit more? Let's see. 1080p. Don't mind me. But yeah, Drapion is a Pokemon that if you look at the simulations, it doesn't look that strong. Doesn't have like a great record. However, up a Poison Sting as a safe swap, it's super safe. For example, look against Rick's team, right? What's his best answer to a Drapion swap? Probably something like Alolan Sand Slash, and even that, Drapion can make uncomfortable with its pure spamminess. Ariados is something that I thought looked really good. I was inspired by a Mind Jokes team that he ran over in the first European Regional this season. And Ariados, along with Drapion, are 2 of the more safe Pokemon in the current meta. We've also got, of course, Azumarill for some like fire coverage. Otherwise, something like a Typhlosion could really run through my team. And then Diggersby right now, again, is really safe. I tried to go with like one of the more flexible possible teams. Azu, Talonflame just kind of cover each other quite well. They cover each other's weaknesses. And then the rest of my 4 Pokemon, I think, are 4 of the more flexible Pokemon in the meta. Dunsparce as well, usually a pretty good safe swap. Not really against Rick's team, though, because Diggersby and Pangoro are both going to destroy a Dunsparce swap. So, that's the team. And here we are, winner semis of Group D. I think this might have been Rick's first time on stream. I could be wrong about that. We have been on stream before. No pressure. And here we go. Going to lock things into game number 1, and we lead Azumarill into Diggersby. And one thing I liked about my matchup here is as long as Azumarill avoided Cresselia, right, it's pretty safe everywhere else. And I think I'm actually going to go to 1.5 times speed here. So, like, sometimes in playing Pokemon Go, I'm kind of playing the numbers game as well. I did that with the classic, like, Triple Dark Umbreon strat in LA, right? I felt like there was less teams that had a dark resistance at the time. So why, like, not play the numbers game and have a more efficient move in Dark Pulse if most of the time you're not even going to need Last Resort. So most of his team, like, Azu does pretty well against, and this is probably the safest possible line I can run is Azu double poison against this team. Little bit concern would be like something like a Sand Slash in back. He safe swaps the Drapion, and that's something you got to be aware of, right? Something we got to be aware of coming to this game. Oh, let me resize this a little bit, because Drapion is also a fairly safe swap against us. So we know a Drapion safe swap is a very plausible strategy for Rick. And we're just staying in here. We're just staying in here. Going to fire off the Play Rough here. And if he shields, I got to get out of here. I cannot afford to give Drapion this big Poison Sting down. So here we go. We swap into our own Drapion. And I'm actually going to move my face cam up here so you can see the team of 6. Now we should be pretty settled going into the rest of the video. But yeah, we soften his Drapion, but he's able to keep it around. And now he is going to go for the Fire Punch, but I have the Aqua Tail loaded. So I'm actually going to shield it to get rid of this Diggersby. And if I'm looking at his team, unless it's the A-Slash, Ariados up a shield can beat pretty much anything. Honestly, Ariados up a shield maybe can even beat A-Slash. I do lose the charge attack priority against this Drapion in the mirror. That's unfortunate. Can't really afford to come in Azu. I'd probably just get farmed down. So I come in with Ariados. He does make a nice catch, catching the Trailblaze onto his Cresselia. But this is going to boost my attack, and now the lunge is going to do even more. I'm just going to throw it right away. No need to overfarm, right? Because I know it's not going to KO anyway. And it does a lot of damage. I did look at the team sheet, so I know he's running Future Sight. I know he has the potential Future Sight here. Maybe he was hoping that I didn't read the team sheet. That'd be kind of funny. That did happen. Shout out Pranav on the stream. And then we come out with a move with the farm down. I knew he didn't have enough for Future Sight, so I could go for the full farm down. And then Ariados is going to win the charge attack priority against Drapion to give us game number 1 in this matchup. That's me. They're showing the team. And I really liked this team, guys. I really liked this team. Going into my last tournament in Baltimore, I didn't even bother doing a recap because I only got on stream once. And I lost my first round. I went 5 straight wins in the loser's bracket before losing again on stream. And I just felt like my team was a little RPS. I felt like I had to play kind of out of my mind to beat most teams. Versus this tournament, I felt like I usually had a team comp advantage. I felt like I usually had a lot of flexible play with my team. So definitely felt more comfortable this go around. We're going into game number 2. Let's see if we want to flip things around or go with a similar strat. You can see I'm tapping. So I'm probably locked in already at this point. Rick's got a little Diggersby plush by his side. Sometimes I just glance over at like my notebook that I write down both teams of 6 just to like have it fresh in my mind. And here we go. It's the Azumarill Mirror, and I pivot out immediately. The reason I pivot out immediately is to draw out a potential Diggersby, because with Dunsparce in the back, if I lose the Azumarill Mirror, and he comes in with like the A-Slash, for example, on the Drapion, I would be dead in the water. So I pivot immediately because I felt like I had 2 somewhat better responses. And also, like, if there was something like a Pangoro as well in the back, I also would kind of need to learn that out with Drapion. So that's what we decided to go for here. I could have maybe played out the lead, and that would have been another option, but we didn't know, right, who was going to win the charge attack priority with Azumarill, so that would have been risky, because that usually comes down to charge attack priority in that matchup, who lands the 3rd play rough first. And he actually elects to shield, I believe, the 2nd Aqua Tail here. So at this point, I've gotten the shield advantage. And I think I'm willing to just let this go, because if I shield, he's going to get to another Scorching Sands before I get to threaten to knock him out. So I just let this go. He's going to get off another Scorching Sands here, unfortunately. Well, he's got lots of energy at this point. He gets the debuff. Maybe this is the more appropriate use of the word, unfortunately, because now it's going to allow him to live this Ice Beam to get to the Scorching Sands. What do you got there anyway? Maybe. Would have been close. Scorching Sands does some considerable damage. I am up a shield, however, with Dunsparce, so I'm feeling pretty good here. If it was like the Pangoro, that would have been really bad, but it's definitely not Pangoro considering he's staying in. So this definitely hints to me that it's probably the Alolan Sandslash that he's staying in at this point. He goes for the Play Rough, lands it. Would have been nice for me to shield that, considering Play Rough a little bit more than Ice Beam, and now he can probably just go straight Ice Beam, right? So would have been nice to shield the first one potentially. But now we're forced to put up that Protect Shield. Ice Beam gets shielded, and we're going to make sure we have extra energy. We want extra energy for whatever's in the back. Drill Run connects onto Azumarill. I do one throw for proper timing. He knows there's an Azumarill, right? So he knows this is going to do the most damage. Might as well shield this. I swap to avoid getting farmed down. However, this is perhaps a critical mistake in this game. I get off the Play Rough here for some chip damage. I'm saving my shield. Rick with the nice overfarm does 4 Powder Snows, goes for the Drill Run, and then check this Undercharge out. Undercharges it. Does allow me to get to the Play Rough, however. This Play Rough isn't going to be doing enough damage against this non-Shadow A-Slash. And now, look at this. He's got all this energy. He already has the double Ice Punch. I am still 2 rollouts away, and he's going to win. So perhaps a huge mistake by me. The YouTube comments have already pointed it out. Rise, what if you stayed in with the Dunsparce and then swapped, you know what? Ursula? I don't know why that came to mind. That's from, like, Friends, right? Phoebe's twin. Ursula, you are probably right. If I had thrown this Drill Run, I was afraid I'd be giving the Sandslash too much farm. But perhaps if I had stayed in, gone for another Drill Run, and then swapped Azumarill, I would have won. I don't think it's a guaranteed win, however, because I would have given this Sandslash a lot of farm. And, like, you saw the Drill Run plus the Powder Snows was pretty much enough to knock out Azumarill. So I think, well, but actually no, because it took multiple Play Roughs. So I think, yeah, I think if I had stayed in, shielded, if necessary, the Dunsparce, get off the Drill Run, then swap Azumarill, I would have reached the Play Rough after landing a Drill Run and probably would have won the game. So a bit of a throw by me here in game number 2. That's probably just about Drill Run range. And Toasty Paw Rick takes us down in game number 2. So this comes down to a decisive game number 3. And if you guys are unfamiliar with the Play Pokemon format, it is a double elimination format. So it's important to try and stay in the winner side of the bracket as long as you can. Once you go to the loser side of the bracket, you then have to really claw your way. You have to win twice as many matches to try and win. And you also, like, just don't, mentally, you don't have that margin of error anymore, right? You don't have any room for a slip up. So here we go. We're thinking game number 3. Trying to think if I want to make any adjustments. I've led Azumarill 2 games in a row, and one reason I liked leading the Azumarill in this matchup is because if you look at our teams, right, I mentioned that Cresselia is the only real hard answer to Azumarill, and it's pretty hard to bring Cresselia against my team. I have a Drapion, I have the Ariados, I have a Talonflame. Cresselia is not an easy bring against my team. It only really has the targets of Azu. Diggersby's, like, not that great. I mean, Diggersby, I think, actually wins if it gets a debuff. And then Dunsparce is, like, fairly neutral, probably favors Cress a little bit. So, if you're bringing Cress, you're basically just hoping to get it on the Azu, we lead Azu into Drapion in this game number 3. And in this scenario, I am happy that my Talonflame that I have now brought in the back is avoiding this Drapion. I'm going to go for the Ice Beam here after one bubble. And Rick is going to put up a shield. Now, check out what happens here. This is just like nerves or something. Rise making a critical error. We can slow this down. I literally overtap the Ice Beam. I overtap the Ice Beam, I think. Slow it down to 50%. I'm intending to throw this Ice Beam here after 1 because I can get this off before a crunch. I know an Aqua Tail won't KO. And I think I tapped above the Ice Beam just a fraction of a second too late, which now forces a charge attack priority. And now it kind of forces me to shield because this could be a crunch. Now, he does bait the Aqua Tail, so yes, I could have lived in Aqua Tail, but he did have access to the crunch. I didn't want to let my Azumarill go down. I shield to get off this Ice Beam, and he's going to let it go. And I am going to immediately pivot into my own Drapion, because I don't want to risk giving his Drapion a Poison Sting down. He stores some energy. In comes Diggersby. He was a little bit slower this time. A little bit slower. This is going to help me out a little bit in this matchup as we spam off these Aqua Tails. We need 3 to knock out Diggersby. Second Aqua Tail coming through. He's approaching the second Scorching Sands. I actually decide to shield. I decide to invest in the Drapion here. And he lets it go. He then comes in with the Azumarill, revealing his third Pokemon. And I'm like, oh no, this is not good. I have a Talonflame in the back. He's up a shield. We go for the crunch here. He is already at the Ice Beam, and I go for a catch. I do 1 Poison Sting. I catch the Ice Beam onto my own Azumarill. This is pretty nice. Rick could have potentially gone for an undercharge here, but perhaps wasn't exactly sure how much, or maybe how much energy my Azumarill had if it was in danger of reaching another move. Because a bubble down here would have been pretty devastating, but I think he only got 1 bubble there after the Ice Beam catch. Now, I can afford to come back in with Drapion. And I lag a turn, so you see me shake my head a little bit. It allows him to get an entire free bubble through because of the lag. And then he swaps in with his Drapion and actually, I think, overtaps, doing an extra Poison Sting on the Aqua Tail. He forgot he already had the Aqua Tail loaded. I think he thought he was 1 away. And Crunch ends up being a charge attack priority here on the Azumarill. And Talonflame is going to be able to come in now, be able to absorb 1 Ice Beam, no problem. Lucky for us, Azumarill cannot double up on charge attacks, so we can just go for the Fly here. Could have gone for the Brave Bird as well. But Fly is enough from this low of health, obviously. And we're going to take the win here in the match against Toasty Pawrick. Super nice guy. And some people were saying, like, if he threw the Aqua Tail, he would have won. I don't think that would have mattered in the slightest. Because all that happens, right? All that happens if he throws the Aqua Tail here with his Drapion is, let's say he knocks out my Drapion, then I just get 1 Incinerate with Talonflame. So then Talonflame is here right now with 1 Incinerate, full health. I take an Ice Beam. I'm 2 away from the Fly. I win. So I don't think that mattered at all. Would have had to be some sort of different sequence of events to, at that point in the game, I think it was over. But not the cleanest set by any means. I could have played that better, especially with that lead overtap. That was definitely a cause for concern in the start. But we take a Game 1 win, and we actually get to do an interview with Caleb after. Soph doesn't actually talk that fast. We're still on the 1.5 times speed.
Bringing the Sand Slash to respond to the area.
Shout out to Jim and Soph. And here we are with Caleb, who I'm sure most of you guys know. Popular content creator.
Thank you, Jim. I'm here with Rise to Occasion.
And my co-caster from my first ever
co-caster,
stream.
Well-accomplished player as well. The only person in the world to ever win one regional, at least one regional every season for every single season that Pokemon Go has been in the Championship Series. No one can eclipse that feat but yourself. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Still on the winner's side, so that's always a good thing. Thanks. You're too much with the introduction. Thank you.
No, well deserved for
Hopefully
sure.
the audio
it's
level
great to
is
see you here.
decent.
Especially you went to
Had it
Baltimore
cranked
as
up
well.
pretty
I know
good.
you just
kinda
narrowly
quiet.
missed Top Cut in day number 2 at Baltimore. What was the adjustment you made coming into today's tournament?
You know, it's kind of a feel-out process for Baltimore with the brand new meta. I never really felt super comfortable with the team. I just kind of threw like a meta thing together. I've had more time to prep for this tournament, so I definitely feel a little more comfortable, a little more flexible with my team.
We've been asking a lot of these top players too what they think of the meta and the picks in the meta right now. I know Dunsparce is #1 in usage at like 54% for day number 1, but in your mind, what do you think is actually like a really strong pick in this meta regardless of the usage?
I think Ariados. I really liked a Mind Jokes team that he ran in the European regional, and so Ariados is probably one of my more unique picks on my team, and I think it's really dangerous right now in the meta.
Yeah, and we saw you actually utilize it quite a bit in that last series as well. And me personally, I wasn't really an Ariados believer, but after seeing some of these matches today, might be proven wrong as well. You are facing off against Ashton Ash, second place finisher of North American International Championships this past year, coming up in this winners finals. Thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do too well at NAIC, and then I got to spectate for a while and just saw him play out of his mind. So he's an incredible player. It's going to be difficult. I haven't seen his team or anything, so I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely, for sure. Well, any shout-outs you'd like to give before we go to our quick break? Anyone that maybe helped you prep for this or just in general?
Shout out to my Legends United teammates that are here. Shout out to my friend Spencer from high school. He's letting me stay at his place for this weekend. And shout out to my family.
Awesome. Is Spencer a big Pokemon fan too?
He only knows like Gen 1. So I showed him my team, and he's like, I don't recognize any of these. So casual Pokemon fan.
Well, shout out to Spencer for sure to have you here in this tournament. Maybe you could win it all for him. But thank you for taking some time with us, Rise. And we have a little fun segment coming up. So let's toss it back to a Butters here.
A little bit out of pop.
So there you have it. Fun little interview there. I do a few more interviews, but maybe I won't show all of them. But that sets us up in the winners finals here of our group against Ashton Ash. As Caleb mentioned, was the runner-up this past season at the North American Championships, where he really made a name for himself. Also, shout out to Ashton Ash. Super nice guy in terms of sportsmanship. Literally came up to me sitting down because he had like just seen me play on stream and I had no idea what he was running. So he offered to like show me his team. So it was fair. And I thought that was like a really nice gesture for him to do. Didn't have to do that, of course. Yeah, like we do see their teams anyway at some point, but like I guess from his point of view, it would have been a slight advantage, like knowing my team, having time to think about what he wants to run and me not really knowing what he's running. So I took like a peek at his team for a good like 20 seconds, handed his team sheet back, and here we go. Game number 1. He's running a team with a lot of overlapping mons in terms of, I guess, just Azumarill, Dunsparce, and Talonflame. Then has the Superior, the Clodsire, and the Malamar. Malamar, very flexible mon. I know it's probably coming against my team because it's pretty dang safe. Like, even my counters to it, right? Ariados. Well, I guess Ariados you wouldn't consider a counter. Drapion really is the only counter to it, as well as Azumarill, and it beats Azumarill in the 2s, and it has that superpower to really threaten Drapion, so it can flip Drapion in certain scenarios. And then Superior is just very RPS against my team, right? Just hard beats Azumarill, beats Diggersby, and I would even go as far to say it hard counters Dunsparce because the rollout plus Rock Slide just doesn't do very much. And then it has 3 things that just destroy it with Ariados, Talonflame, and Drapion. So, game 1, we catch a great lead. Diggersby into Clodsire. He's going to swap that Malamar, and to me, it's not the most comfortable to retain switch by just going straight into Drapion. So what I decided to do here is I want to keep my alignment. I'm going to stay in Scorching Sands and then swap into Drapion. Now, this is a little bit more comfortable for me. I've already chipped it. I'm going to take this because if it's a superpower... Oh, no. Okay, I take it back. I let it go. I let it go. Or, I can't talk. I shield it. And now I preserve a lot of health. And we retain Switch as well. And at this point, I'm a little bit scared if it's Talonflame in the back. Talonflame is a little bit of what I'm worried about at this point. So I actually decided to start preserving my Drapion. Seems like that shield surprised Ashton Ash a bit. I go for the Aqua Tail here. He's still not shielding. I throw Aqua Tail one before the Earthquake, so he can't quite charge attack priority me. He shields, so I pivot into Diggersby. This way, if it's Talon, I lure it out. And at this point, it's a Azumarill, so I'm like, okay, maybe it would have been better for me to just play this a little bit more straightforward and to not play it this way. But I think we're still in an okay spot. And I get the attack drop, so pretty fortunate there. Now these charge attacks and bubbles are going to do slightly less from Azumarill. Scorching Sands debuffs are pretty nasty from Diggersby. We got some bunny on bunny play going. You see his reaction. We get double Scorching Sands debuffs. That's pretty nasty. Ice Beam does still knock us out. I come in straight away with Ariados, knowing that the Azumarill doesn't have much energy and knowing that an Earthquake won't one-shot me. I decide to go for the Trailblaze here on what would have been charge attack priority. Could I have lunged from here? Probably. I guess I just wanted to be safe with the Trailblaze in case he somehow lived. Because that could have been like a potential lose con. But he's forced to Earthquake. I overfarm a little bit. I crunch here, and people are so critical. Like, oh my gosh, why is he crunching? Doesn't he know to throw Aqua Tail? Like, yeah, of course. But I'm thinking of the potential lose condition, right? Lose condition would be catching an Aqua Tail on a Azumarill. Yes, it's easy for you to see that the switch timer wasn't up yet watching. But man, people are so critical. Like, it's crazy when I watch back on like the Twitch chat. Like, oh my gosh, why on earth would he throw the crunch there? I feel like people, when they just see something they don't understand the decision behind, they're just really quick to like try and make a correction, you know? It's the same thing like on YouTube videos. Like if you misspeak and you say like the wrong move, like people just like to be the one to catch a mistake, to like be the ones to point out the correction. So yes, obviously Aqua Tail would have been enough to take out the Claude there. Crunch was in case the switch timer was up and he could catch on the Azumarill, because if he had caught an Aqua Tail on the Azumarill, that would have been my only lose condition at that point. So here we go. We take game number 1. This is to get to day 2, and we lead Drapion into Dunsparce. I do not mind this matchup too much because we are so spammy. I go for the crunch, and I'm actually going to safe swap Azumarill. And what I'm thinking is, okay, like worst case, it's the Superior, in which case maybe I can get a bunch of energy on something like my Ariados or my Drapion afterwards, like a big Poison Sting down after an Ice Beam. But he actually did not bring a solid response. He did not bring a solid response to the Azumarill. So now he actually is forced to come in Talonflame here to have something that can actually deal some charge attack pressure. And I'm actually able to live the fly, get to another Ice Beam. Yep, could have done one more bubble there. You are correct in the comments. But we decide to throw the Ice Beam there just to be safe. And then we pivot into Drapion, really putting the pressure on Ashton Ash. He's forced to go down 2 shields here to get off this next fly. And I'm going to shield because I still don't know exactly what's in the back. Sometimes it's better to just keep 2 Pokemon around rather than 1. And with this advantage that we're at right now, we're just looking to be in a really good position. Drapion going to Aqua Tail the Dunsparce. In comes Malamar, revealing the final Pokemon. And at this point, I could like crunch and swap Ariados, or I could just stay in, shield once, and crunch. And Ashton Ash said GG's like a while before this, understanding that I was in a pretty commanding position. I would say a favorable team composition for me. The Drapion was just a real menace, really difficult to handle for his team. And shout out to Ashton Ash. Really cool dude, really nice sport. Especially the gesture of giving me a chance to look at his team since he had already seen my team on stream. We do an interview with Butters, but I think I think we cover a lot of the same stuff from like the Caleb match. And let's move on to day number 2. So after winning our group, it sets us up on day number 2 in Louisville. And this, you could argue, might be the most stacked in terms of like big names, former champions, top 16 we've ever had at the regional level. We have on the winner side of the bracket, Gordon the Flash, Lyle Jeffs, 2-time regional champion. It's Axon, former world champion, international champion, and regional champion. He's got the triple crown. Balk, last year's Milwaukee champion. We've got Trent, one of the most consistent top cutters, has been to numerous top cuts throughout the years. Elam, you could argue the best player in the world to have not won a regional title yet. I would say he's probably my favorite to win LAIC coming up because he's too talented not to win eventually. And the stud is, he seems pretty fired up and motivated. So I would not be shocked at all to see him start collecting some gold medals. Myself, I've won 3 regionals. Arrow, kind of in the same boat as Elam, right? Has finished runner-up a few times, has made numerous top cuts, and is still searching for that gold. Richie, former regional champion, Dunebug, arguably, there was a point last season where he was probably the consensus best player in the world when he won 3 regional titles in one season. Has gone on like a little bit of a cold spell by his standards, but that shows just like how short people's memories are. Like there was a point in time where I think everyone considered him consensus best player in the world, and just because he's had like 4 tournaments now where he maybe hasn't top cut, people have suddenly like people have such short memories. But Dune, I would still consider, along with like Wadaj, I still put It's Axon up there as like the very best players in the world. Nighttime Clasher, one of the fastest rising players. No one really knew this kid a few years ago when he made his debut at Arlington. He was the Tokudamaru guy. Now he's already a regional champion and looking for more. August, I met for the first time. August, probably one of the lesser known names on this top 16, but was a super fun dude. I got to chat with a little bit in the morning and said I think he came in from New York. So shout out to him for top cutting. I want to say his first top cut, but I could be wrong. SJ, just an absolute badass of a player. Second place in his first ever regional, won his second ever regional, and he back in the top cut here. Out of Pocket, friend of mine, NAIC champion, regional champion, top 5 at Worlds this past year. Just a long-time player. He's only like 18 years old, but he's been in the game for a long time. He's a savvy veteran. And Pranav, popular streamer at one point in time, doesn't stream as much anymore, but super talented, always at the top of the Go Battle League leaderboards. And Tomahawk UK in that same club, unfortunately, with Elam, Arrow, Caleb Pang, like one of the top players in the world that has still yet to catch that elusive title, but is consistently performing at the top. And that being said, let's get in to the top cut here, where it is going to be me against my friend Arrow at the start of the day. We got 2-0 Butters and Caleb here. And this matchup, when I was looking at who I would potentially play from the bracket, the person I least wanted to face was Arrow. But the thing is, I bet if you asked most players, they would have said the same thing, because his team is just so wild. And one thing I was hyping up about my team, right, is the fact that I always had something super safe, right? The Drapion was super safe against Ashton Ash. The Ariados was super safe in my previous matchup for the most part. Unfortunately, against Arrow's team, I don't really have anything that's completely safe or completely free. Everything has some sort of hard check. So I had devised a bit of a strategy coming into this matchup, and I wasn't going to pull it out right away, but I knew the Registeel was pretty good against my team. Everyone led Reggie in scrims, and that's the tough thing with scrims. Like, everyone led Reggie in scrims. So it's like, do I prepare for Reggie lead, or am I just preparing for... So maybe I should have. But here's the problem is... Here's the problem with this matchup for me. And we go into like the advanced sort of strategies here. So let's say I am going to predict Registeel lead from Arrow. What would I lead? I would lead either Talonflame, right? Or I would lead Diggersby. Arrow's Quagsire is extremely safe against my team. So if I lead Talonflame, even if I lead into Reggie, he can swap Quag and get like a 3 Mudshot head start on anything, which would then allow him to flip Ariados. If I lead Diggersby into Registeel and he swaps Quag, like, I can potentially swap Ariados straight away, but that line is like, I don't know, that line is like asking for trouble against like Typhlosion, because he can get shields down on me potentially. So just a very awkward matchup, and I don't have anything that's safe, and I feel like pretty much no matter what I run, I'm going to be ABA weak to something, so I kind of had to lean into that. So here's the strategy game one. If I saw Reggie lead, I was going to swap Diggersby, hopefully lure out the Quagsire, which is going to plan so far, and we were hoping that the Backmon was going to be either the Moltres or the Typhlosion here. So basically, the strategy was to get a shield advantage with my Diggersby here, and then set up the Dunsparce in a situation where he had to go Reggie into Dunsparce, and then maybe Dunsparce could, like, put in some work up a shield. However, what you're going to see happen here is things don't go exactly as we would have hoped. Scorching Sands coming through. We are going to get the shield advantage here. And I just feel like a mud shot down here would be too devastating, so I actually decide to pivot. I come in with Dunsparce, and he is going to actually unload the energy here, which surprised me a little bit. But he goes for the Aqua Tail here. And then comes in, revealing the Guzzlord. Now, this is awkward, because Guzzlord is fairly bulky for a Dragon-type Pokemon. It's going to take these non-stab Drill Runs quite well. As you see, Drill Run not doing quite as much as I need it to do. Going for another Drill Run here. Drill Run coming through. Going to connect. And unfortunately, if I shield, he already has the double, right? So I would have to probably shield and then catch on Diggersby. So I'm kind of forced to let this go. I come in with Ariados. I get denied the Poison Sting here, which is pretty tough. So getting denied the Poison Sting ends up forcing me to take an entire extra Dragon Tail here, because I knock him out in 6. So I would have been able to knock him out in 5. So I took an entire extra Dragon Tail. I go for the Trailblaze here. I've still yet to commit a shield, I believe. Still yet to commit a shield. But I knew that, like, I knew that Quag had just about an Aqua Tail, and obviously the Registeel's moves are crazy. So this is this is a crazy task for Ariados, but you're going to get a little bit of a sneak peek of what Ariados can actually do against Registeel here, which is kind of insane. So this looks like it's completely over, right? And perhaps it is, but you're going to get a little bit of a sneak peek of, like, how uncomfortable Ariados can make this for Registeel. Going for the Trailblaze here. So now we are triple vamped at this point. Triple vamped. I wasn't convinced this Trailblaze would knock out, so I go for the Lunge, because Lunge should knock out if it goes unshielded. Oh, never mind. I guess I should have Trailblazed then if it wasn't going to knock out anyway. Kind of forced to shield. Unfortunately, Quag has energy, and we're just a little bit too low. So he combos with the Aqua Tail, and you're going to see the health on the Quag is going to be too much for the health on the Diggersby for a decisive game 1. And pretty dominant win for Arrow. We were very weak to the Registeel lead. We kind of were forced to come in with our Diggersby, which is our safest Pokemon in this matchup. So I had devised a strategy that seemed kind of crazy, but we were going to pull the trick out of the bag here for game number 2. And the strategy is going to be ABA weak to Reggie, and then hope that Ariados can actually, in the 2-shield, surprisingly make Registeel quite uncomfortable. So check out what happens here. I forgot to put it on 1.5. I'm definitely going to go 1.5 for this matchup here. So we are going to Trailblaze immediately. What's crucial with this strategy we're about to employ is we don't get debuffed first. Remember, it's a 33% chance now, as opposed to it used to be a 67% chance. So we don't get debuffed first, which is massive. This is going to allow us to actually make this uncomfortable for Registeel, because we get off 3 Trailblazes to triple buff ourselves before Reggie can get to 2 Zap Cannons. And if you look at Arrow's back line, like, the Ariados is scary for his back line, so he kind of has to utilize his Reggie to get rid of this. And look how low we've gotten it. He does debuff us there. I'm going to overfarm slightly in case he lets this go, because Lunge should KO now. We are still double buffed. Lunge gets shielded. Now we should be able to live the Zap Cannon, but how much are we going to be able to live it by? We barely live it. I'm really trying to look at my health closely, see if I can double up. I get the double up. He actually shields. Is there any way I have more than 1 HP to get this move off? No, I die with 1 HP. He was looking to pivot Quag immediately, but instead decides to just stay in, keep switch advantage. I come in with the Diggersby. So this is going to be a debuffed Focus Blast. Still does about half health. He hard pivots Quag, and I'm thinking, okay, what's my win condition? My win condition is this is the same line. And I'm going to stay in. I'm going to Scorching Sands. And I'm going to swap the Azumarill, because I knew I lived the Aqua Tail. You see Arrow nod the head, knowing that now he's in a bit of a tough spot with that Guzzlord in the back. In what looked to be an impossible situation, Ariados, Azu, ABA into Reggie. Suddenly, there's a glimmer of hope. Is this still possible? We're gonna knock out the Quag with the Ice Beam. In comes Guzzlord, and now I just have to avoid the catch on the Registeel, so I simply wait a turn, go for the play rough here. Gonna knock out Guzzy Wuzzy, and we are gonna bubble down the Registeel and get the win. And there we go. We tied up 1-1. We put the pressure on Arrow. And Arrow is just one of the craziest battlers in the world. We led Ariados game 1. We led Ariados game 2. He hasn't brought the Superior. So I figure game number 3, no matter what, if he runs a similar line, I can get away with Diggersby against any of those 3 Pokemon. So that was kind of my strategy, was Diggersby, ABA with Azu. He hasn't brought the Superior. And what do you know? 3 games in a row, I'm ABA weak to his lead. Just reading me like a book. And we'll go through this game, but this will end up being an unfortunate situation. So we are forced to stay in this matchup because we're ABA weak. And he just has us perfectly hard countered, right? Quagsire onto Talonflame, Registeel onto Azumarill. But I'm not going to give up, because I'm thinking, okay, like, if I get an Incinerate head start, is there any way Talon can pull off some shenanigans here? So he gets off a little bit of chip damage with the Frenzy. I want to try and get a shield off of this Quag to try and set up a Talon sweep in the end. So I throw immediately. Unfortunately, Arrow lags a turn upon entry here. So you're going to see he only gets 5 mud shots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Arrow should be able to get 6 mud shots there since I threw on alignment. So that is unfortunate. I'm aware of that now for the rest of the game. I swap in Azumarill. I'm hard countered all the way through by Registeel. Play rough, but once again, I'm going to play this out, right? Because this game, in my opinion, is not quite over. Because if I can get enough of an energy lead with the Talon, Talon can do some crazy things. I'm saving both my shields. I know Reggie's going to be forced to, like, throw at some point here. And it's not like Reggie can double up on moves. So Talon can be a little bit annoying for Arrow still here. We're going to be forced to let Azumarill go at this point. Just put it all on the back of Talonflame. I come in here, and he is going to throw after 3 mud shots. Could have thrown after 4, but throws after 3. And now he's going to throw after 2. And I am 1 away from the double fly at this point. And he knows I have the double fly, so he's actually going to let this go because he knows I would just back-to-back anyway. The fly knocks out. He still has his shield to hide behind. I build up. I get to another double fly. I'm at the back-to-back. And he's explaining how he feels like the missed mud shot definitely mattered. And I kind of agree, so I'm nodding. Because I know this game's going to go to a review, even if I win. And it's just an unfortunate situation all around. So this went to a review, a dispute. And I was sitting here wrestling with what do I do, because this was like a real moral conundrum for me, whether I wanted to concede this battle or play the rematch, because I knew in all likelihood, right, if things play out exactly the same, he would have had 1 more mud shot. He could have thrown that mud shot, or he could have thrown that Aqua Tail. He could have shielded then and got off the Aqua Tail before. The problem for me is, like, it happened so much earlier in the game as opposed to, like, the end game. So we were discussing this here, and what was kind of funny is, like, the officials, CCO, Charles, the referee, came on to discuss this, and I was, like, kind of asking some questions and, not arguing, but, like, asking the details. Like, so he definitely had the Aqua Tail loaded when I threw that second fly, and he's like, yeah. So I think I think Charles thought I was arguing the rematch call. I was not arguing the rematch call. I was, like, debating in my head whether I wanted to concede this match or not. And, you know, in the end, I was so torn and conflicted because the lag had happened earlier, and there was still quite a bit of game that played out after the lag, that I was, like, so 50-50. And because I was 50-50 on whether to concede or not, I decided I wasn't going to concede. I felt like if I'm going to take it into my own hands to concede a match, like, I want to be 100% sure that I feel like I should be conceding the match. So I ended up deciding not to concede, and we end up playing a rematch of this battle. And unfortunately for me, for the 4th consecutive game, I am ABA weak to the lead. And honestly, I'm just going to skip through this one a little bit because this is pretty one-sided. It plays out basically identically to game number 1, where I tried to employ the strategy of get a shield advantage with Diggersby, but Arrow just stuck to his guns with the same line. And the unfortunate thing is, if I had run back the Azumarill strategy with this team, I probably would have won again. So Arrow said after the battle, like, he knew I couldn't beat this line. And I was like, well, bro, like, I did beat that line, like, with the ABA Azumarill Ariados against Reggie. But he's like, I knew you couldn't beat that line. So it's unfortunate. I just felt like in this matchup, I didn't really have anything that was safe, which made things difficult. And no matter what I ran, I was going to be, oh my God, I'm so sorry. My face has been blocking the whole thing. But there's not a whole lot you're missing in this match. This was a very dominant, decisive game for him to win. Yeah. And Arrow's all excited. Different personalities. But to be fair, it was a hard-fought series, and he went through the possibility of, like, losing it in the previous match, even though I kind of knew it was probably going to be a rematch. So this game was, like, over very early, but he's obviously excited to move on to the next round, and I've learned to accept that, like, you know, sometimes beating your boy, people get excited. It's something I've had to adjust to. I was on a podcast recently, and I'm just like a very reserved personality, so I remember maybe a couple times I've ever really like shown emotion in celebration in this championship series throughout my 21 tournaments now, and it's definitely something I've had to get used to, where like I've lost round one a few times now, where people go like crazy or berserk in front of me when they beat me, or like they have a group of friends watching and their whole friend group goes like, let's effing go, like right in front of me, like in celebration. And from my perspective, like it's round one, I'm very disappointed. It's almost embarrassing for me to lose that early. But it's something I've learned to like, at first, like I was questioning, like, am I a villain? Like, do people hate me? Because you become self-conscious, you know, like they're so happy, like, are they rooting against me? But I think I've learned to appreciate it's more like, it's more of a respect thing that like anytime I lose at this point, it's like a big deal. It's like a big deal for people. So I don't know. But yeah, pretty dominant performance there from Arrow. Tough team comp. I do not envy anyone that has to play him in these next matches. The lovely Soph with an interview with Arrow. And we will fast forward to my next matchup where we play against Mr. Out of Pocket. And Pocket and I go way back, being teammates on Jim Breaker's Team USA. Pocket's a great kid. He's a champion. And I would say now kind of vice versa. I had a very difficult matchup against Arrow's team. Now I have a bit of an advantage against Pocket here with my Ariados being pretty much unchecked. So you're going to see in this matchup against Pocket, he really doesn't have a hard counter to the Ariados, which is going to make my life a little bit easier. And we are going to lead Azumarill. So we're employing a very similar strategy that we did against Toasty Parik that we played earlier in this video. Pocket has been on an absolute tear this calendar year, something like 8 out of 10 top cuts over his last 10 tournaments. He attempts to catch onto his Dugong, and this is going to allow me to swap in to Ariados here, get it where it wants to be, go for the Trailblaze. He's already down a shield, so we can't really afford to expend a shield, in my opinion, here. Going to go for the Icy Wind on us, set our attack back to normal. We are going to throw the Trailblaze here after 4. And Trailblaze is going to knock out the Dugong. Aqua Tail going to probably knock out our Ariados. I think he tried to undercharge it slightly. But I'm going to come in back with Azumarill knowing he has energy. He catches the Ice Beam, but it's onto Diggersby, so this is totally fine with me. Catches the super effective move, and this is going to help things out for our Drapion now, since a double Aqua Tail should be just about enough to knock out. Aqua Tail coming through. Fire Punch now is going to be baited onto our Drapion. And we're going to overfarm here just before the Scorching Sands, because I don't want to give him the opportunity to CMP me. I'd rather like force him to make that decision. He's going to bait us again. Double baits us with the Fire Punches, but we're just kind of playing this safe, right? We feel like we're ahead right now. We don't want to like take an unnecessary risk. I'm going to go for the Aqua Tail here, and if this doesn't knock out, I kind of make this instant reaction that 1 bubble should knock out, and now I'm 3 bubbles away. He is still a little bit further away. Honestly, in the moment, I wasn't 100% sure if I would reach this first, but I figured if I did reach it first, then my Drapion would simply get to the Aqua Tail first. Or rather, if Pocket reached the charge attack first, I would simply get to a move first on Drapion. So we take a game 1 win here against Pocket. They do a little instant replay. And now we go to game number 2. Diggersby Mirror. So I'm running a similar team to game 1. And I figured what I liked about this line, we talked about how he didn't really have a great response to Ariados. So with this line, if my Diggersby saw a bad lead, I could simply safe swap the Ariados and then put him in an uncomfortable situation. We see the Diggersby mirror, so we're not really forced to switch out. We can just stay in here. And knowing that he has a Toxapex on his team, like, that's always in the back of my mind, all right? Like, a Toxapex could be something to bring, because Azumarill is really good everywhere else, so I am a little bit worried about a potential Toxapex. Pocket goes for the drill run to do a little bit more raw damage here. I overfarm, go for the Trailblaze. Should still live 2 Ice Shards from this range, and once again, I'm a little bit weary of a Toxapex. Excuse me, so I'm actually going to put up a Protect Shield here, because I figure if it is Toxapex, I need alignment here. I don't know if Pocket, like, stuttered there on purpose to give himself more farm. If he did, that's kind of nasty. He decides to farm down with Azu, which makes it a little awkward for me, right? Because he doesn't take too much Poison Sting damage, and now he's 3 bubbles ahead with his Azumarill. So suddenly this becomes a little bit awkward. He has energy on that Diggersby in the back, we know. But once again, he did take a little bit of Poison Sting damage, so maybe that will become a factor here. Azumarill mirror playing out. We got double bunny on both sides remaining. Water bunny, ground bunny. I do wait a turn there to avoid a potential play rough catch on Diggersby, because I feel like that could be pretty bad. Play rough connects. Pocket decides to bait here. I really am not sure why. I guess maybe he thought I would catch here. And now I have the Ice Beam. So I do shield. Once I see that it's a Scorching Sands and not a bait, I do an extra bubble here. I felt like I was able to. Ice Beam going to get that final shield from Pocket. Then we're going to switch. I know I'm healthy enough. I can take a Scorching Sands safely. And I think we're in a pretty good spot here. I throw the Scorching Sands. People in the chat, what are you doing, Rise? Fire Punch is enough. Well, you know, Jason, sometimes you just want to be safe. Better safe than sorry. Make sure it's enough. Fire Punch. I figure if it wasn't enough, like 1 quick attack after would be enough. And we take down our good friend Pocket. Shout out to him. First time we have combined for like 40 tournaments. And first time we've ever played each other in the championship series. So maybe I'll show the interview with Butters this time. I did like this red shirt I wore, by the way. New shirt. If you like the shirt, let me know in the comments. Butters and I are kind of matching.
Congratulations to Rise Occasion, who has officially top 8'd here in Louisville. How does it feel to bounce back after a couple of rough tournaments for your standard, at least?
Yeah, it feels good. After Baltimore, I was top 32 after losing round 1. So to be back in the top 8 is always awesome, and lots of amazing players still left here.
Does it feel even more important this season because of the way that you can qualify for the World Championships, the top 74, the leaderboard,
epic.
but also these travel awards that you can be earning for the international championships as well?
Yeah, I think with the new system, like top 75 from NA qualifying,
my computer.
There's a big jump as well in the points the further you get. So getting as far as possible is definitely important with the new system.
Absolutely, and Ariados helped you get far in that battle. Obviously, when you faced Arrow, it met Registeel a bunch of times, which surprisingly did quite well. But how do you feel like Ariados is going to be versus the rest of these trainers that have also secured top 8?
Well, quick on the Arrow matchup, in case there was like any confusion in the Twitch chat or anything, I was debating whether I wanted to concede or not during the dispute because he missed a mud shot, which probably would have let him get to the Aqua Tail in the end. It happened earlier in the game, so I decided, I was like so torn, like do I concede, do I not? And I decided just to play the rematch because it happened early in the game, so basically that's an explanation of what happened there, if there was any confusion. But Ariados, it's really good. It's really good.
Also, I forget who it was. I was watching somebody's watch party, and someone goes, Rise is always so concerned with what the comments have to say. Oh my God, I'm literally trying to provide context to explain what happened for a potentially confusing situation. And someone is like, yeah, Rise just cares too much about what other people think. Like, bro, I guess. Oh my gosh. I don't know. Maybe I'm proving their point by reacting like this. Is that like Inception? But I don't think so. I don't think it's like caring. I think it's just like being annoyed with how people are always so negativo.
Yeah, I mean, it seems so good, especially because Shadow Drapion seems to be the poison type, the flexible poison type of choice. And I feel like, especially if you get a one poison sting ahead of that Shadow Drapion, it feels like it's just such a good matchup with that Ariados. How do you feel like in terms of the strongest poison types right now? Which would you say is the strongest poison type in the meta?
It's tough. Obviously, Clodsire is high in usage, but I think when you have a Pokemon that's so high in usage, people are trying to counter it. We saw Tomahawk with that Shadow Skarmory, by the way. It's countering that Clodsire. I think Ariados, Drapion, can't go wrong with either of those two. They're probably the safest two poison
Drapion
types
is like
right
the
now.
official pronunciation.
Awesome. Well,
so I said it that
congratulations
way.
to Rise to Occasion once again. And don't go anywhere. We're going to see some highlights, but we're going to be back with some.
Okay, we got 2 matches left, ladies and gentlemen. Next up, losers round 3 against Trent. Trent, top cut in the first ever North American regional back in Indianapolis in the first season. Since has top cut many times. Has made grand finals in the past. And at this stage in the tournament, I believe everyone in the entire top 8 of the tournament had at least finished as a runner-up. Everyone in the entire top 8 had at least finished second place in one of these tournaments. That's how crazy and stacked this top 8 was. And here we go against Trent. Once again, the poison types looked really good for me in this matchup. Oh, the Litten just fell down. And he is running a Shadow Kanto Marowak, which is pretty strong right now, actually. It's a little bit spicy because it's like not super easy to acquire. It's not in Rocket Grunts, but he's running that. My Talonflame didn't have a lot of play against a lot of teams. However, against Trent's team, looked really good, right? The only answer is the Toxapex, really. And even Toxapex takes a little bit of time to get to those brines. So Talonflame can actually be pretty neutral there. So Talonflame was definitely coming for me in this matchup. And let's see. Go back to that 1.5 times speed. So he is going to build up to, I believe, 6 Mud Slaps there. Bait me with the Bone Club. I got to respect this. I just lose on the spot if this is a Rock Slide and I no-shield it. Then he makes a beautiful catch onto the Clodsire. So perhaps I should have been a little bit more patient here, but this is fine with me because it allows me to align my Diggersby with the Clodsire, and I'm going to be able to get some nice, useful energy out of this matchup. And Diggersby, like, can take an Earthquake no problem. I'm going to farm up as much as I can. Go to 100 energy. I go actually a little bit over 100 there, but I was hoping the Scorching Sands would knock out. Unfortunately, Clodsire barely lives. You see a little bit of a subtle reaction from me because I know he's going to get some chip damage now with the Sludge Bomb. But we make a nice little play coming up here. So I know he's got a decent amount of energy. I go for the Scorching Sands. I know he's probably going to throw after 1 Mud Slap. So I do 1 quick attack and I combo catch. I can slow this down a little bit to break down exactly what this is. But this is a CMP catch, so a cool little play here. That's actually a pretty big deal. Knowing he's going to throw after 3 turns, right, I do a quick attack, which is 2 turns. I swap, which takes 1 turn, and I CMP him on the Bone Club that he had already queued up. So I get the Bone Club catch on Talon, and I get off the fly, which forces him to shield. So a pretty nice play here. Probably one of my, like, highlight plays, you could say, of the tournament. Home Slice Henry, I saw like this one in the chat. Shout out to Home Slice. And now we're in a pretty good spot. I mean, I'm kind of eyeing if I could get to double fly. Doesn't look like it, so just going to go for the Brave Bird here. Plus, it gives him slightly less farm, as or maybe not. Maybe it would have been the same farm anyway. And now I'm just going to come in with Ariados. And Ariados should be able to withstand a couple of charge attacks from the Toxapex here. Honestly, I could have come in with Diggersby too. I felt like this made a little bit more sense because I wasn't sure Diggersby could live a brine. So rather than like Diggersby take a brine, get farmed down, I just come in with Ariados. I take 2 moves. Make sure I have some energy for this Marowak. We're going to shield. We have the Trailblaze loaded. We're just going to make sure we throw this right away to not take any more Mud Slap damage. So that Mud Slap that came through will not register. Now we're pretty vamped up. Going to Poison Sting down. I think it might have been Caleb on the commentary that said these Poison Stings looking like poison jabs after these buffs. And that was true. On to the next one. And, yeah, Trent was the Indianapolis Regional Finalist against SJ just last season, so had a pretty recent stellar performance there. And here we go, game number 2. I pivot into Azumarill lead, knowing that, like, the Mandibuzz was pretty safe against my last team. And I actually catch him ABA weak to the Azumarill, so that was pretty nice. I was thinking it was definitely going to be, like, Toxapex in the back, personally. But it's actually going to be Malamar in the end. So he swaps Dugong. I swap Ariados. Focusing on good timing here. Get off this Trailblaze. And once again, in my mind, I just need to keep Switch at all costs. So he actually goes for the Drill Run in trying to flip this. And I suspect he might do so. So I actually shield it. And I go for the Trailblaze here immediately after 1. We just got to make sure that we retain Switch in my mind. So now I'm actually going to throw the Lunge immediately after 5. Not necessarily the perfect timing, but this is going to allow us to debuff him before the Aerial Ace. So now we can actually live in Aerial Ace and get to another charge attack, hopefully. Trent probably should have done 1 Snarl there. Doesn't matter too much, but we get to another Lunge here. This is double boosted, right? This is going to do some considerable damage. He takes it and then quick swaps into Malamar. I'm a little bit slow to react, so he gets the quick farm down, but we've got a bit of a 2-on-1 situation here. He is up a shield, though, with this Malamar, so it's not completely over. Shiny Malamar looking fly. He's got a shield at this point, right? So we're just going to go for Ice Beam baits. Would be pretty insane to no shield at this point, and even if he did, right, then we would start to really add up the fast attack pressure. Not going to shield still. I'm going to try and save this shield, this final shield for Diggersby. Going to go for another Ice Beam bait here. This puts me 1 bubble closer to a 3rd Ice Beam if necessary in the end. Swap into Diggersby. I knew he was at the double superpower here, so I was really debating if I wanted to try and call like a foul play bait. I decided to shield the last second. I get the shield call right, and at this point, I'm feeling pretty good. We can take a Dark Pulse. It doesn't quite put us into superpower range. And I just want to make sure I get off the Fire Punch before taking another move from Mandy. No, I should be able to live this, and I know he doesn't have much energy after the superpower, so I can safely reach the Scorching Sands here to knock out the shiny Malamar. And that will be a G to the G, putting us into the top 6. 1 round further. Not a whole lot of difference between top 6 and top 8, to be fair. So Trent with another impressive run. And this sets us up with our first ever meeting against a player you may recognize. It's Axon. Former world champion, has become a friend, teammate. And I guess it's about time we finally played each other in the championship series. And honestly, I felt like I had a bit of an advantage in this matchup because, once again, my Ariados looked really strong. My Ariados pretty much unchecked. Malamar would probably be his best answer. And of course, I have the Lunge to threaten his Malamar. Now, let's see how the series goes. How the story goes, KSI. We're going for the Lunge, of course. And I decide to just pivot immediately, take the shield advantage. He swaps Diggersby. I'm up a shield, can try and put the pressure on. I'm already at the double Aqua Tail, I believe, so I can get off double Aqua Tail here before he potentially debuffs me. We're going to throw this Aqua Tail here, keeping track of Axon's energy. I decide to shield. And I throw this one before he gets to the next Scorching Sands. Axon decides to let it go. He comes back in with Malamar. Check this out. I go right before the crunch. I wait a turn and I try and catch, and he doesn't fall for it. I really thought I could get a catch here on maybe a superpower, which would have been devastating for Axon, but he does not fall for it in the slightest. Let's see where he was tapping. Like, did it look like he was even gonna almost fall for it? Oh, that looked kind of weird. Huh, maybe I didn't even wait a turn. Maybe I just swapped one before, unfortunately. And I think that decision right there is what really puts me behind right now. Because now, I do get off this crunch, which does draw his last Protect Shield. However, I knew he had double moves at this point, so I knew I couldn't really afford to shield. And I guess at this point, I don't even know what I could really beat in the back. Maybe like a Dunsparce if I knocked this out before eating a second move, but this is just over with the Feraligatr there lurking in the back. Yeah, this game was just the Ariados swap, I think, really just put me behind. If I had just stayed with Drapion, I could have even thrown that Aqua Tail, honestly. I could have even thrown that Aqua Tail. Stay with Drapion, force him to expend energy, come in Diggersby, then have Ariados still for the Feraligatr, probably win, right? So just made it way too complicated there. I think the swap out was fine. I think maybe investing the shield in Drapion to knock out that Diggersby was fine. I think us going for that unnecessary catch in the moment against Ariados is what really lost us the game there. So sometimes it's about having a balance, right? Of being aggressive and also being smart. And I think having that balance is what makes the great players, right? Being able to make the aggressive, risky plays when you need to, but also playing safe and reliable most of the time. Unfortunately, we lead into Diggersby here in game number 2. Not ideal. And if you look at the back line, Azumarill is like not going to have a great time here. And I start to sense it eventually. I swap the Diggersby to not have to go down a shield so early, and I get debuffed, unfortunately. I do get off the Scorching Sands, and I don't think I'm quite in Hydro Cannon range, which is something for us, right? That Scorching Sands debuff, however, is a bit unfortunate, right? Because he would be a little bit less healthy right now on that Feraligatr. Maybe he would have been even inclined to shield the Feraligatr if he hadn't got that debuff. But we do get a shield anyway. No debuff on our side, and I do sense it could be Toxapex in the back. So I am kind of forced to come in here with Azumarill and just use it as sort of a meat sponge to absorb all these Hydro Cannons. And look at Feraligatr just spamming off Hydro Cannons left and right. We are just going to keep bubbling. And at this point, I am just going to bank this energy and hard swap into Drapion. And there it is, the Toxapex that we were thinking. I'm like, maybe there's still some play here. We are up a shield. We still have a decent chunk of health. We have a move banked on Azumarill for later. We get a nice little crunch debuff. I don't know if that's going to do too much for us, but we'll see how things play out here. Another crunch. Maybe that debuff is going to allow us to Aqua Tail here. So perhaps that crunch debuff did help us out a little bit. I'm going to keep on counting and get off the Aqua Tail here on the charge attack priority. I feel like this should knock out because he's debuffed. He shields. And this is going to force my last Protect Shield. He swaps Diggersby. I get off the Aqua Tail here. And I do have the Ice Beam loaded, but I was afraid if I combo with the Ice Beam, I just get farmed down. Oh, man. Well, I guess I would have been able to catch it. And then I Ice Beam right away because I didn't want to take fast attack damage. And I just misremembered the health on this Toxapex. I thought I could bubble it down. So I think just a really sloppy, potentially endgame here. If we just go back to normal speed, this seems like it was winnable, right? Let's think about this a little bit. Aqua Tail here. Well, you know what? Here's the problem is if I catch this, right? If I catch this Scorching Sands on a Zoomerol, I take another 3 quick attacks. And then do I live the subsequent jabs plus Shadow Claws from Toxapex? I don't think so. So I think what maybe I could have done here would have been to do 2 bubbles. And then I would have been 1 bubble away from Ice Beam. Maybe I get to that Ice Beam against Toxapex. Really tricky endgame. I'm sure you guys in the comments probably have a sequence or an order that you think would have won me the game here. But honestly, looking at this, even in normal speed, after the fact, it's not super clear what would have been the best course of action to win this right here. I think maybe... Oh, what about... Ooh, wait a sec. What about... When did I reach the Aqua Tail? I could have maybe thrown the Aqua Tail immediately and then Ice Beamed. Or maybe I could have swapped a Zoomerol right now and Ice Beamed. The problem is... I think Diggersby can probably just double up on like Fire Punch because Ice Beam doesn't knock out. And then I'm forced to throw Aqua Tail immediately anyway. So like, yeah, obviously the way we played this probably wasn't the most efficient endgame. But to me, looking at this back, I'm not super mad at myself. Like, oh, I obviously should have done A when I did B. Like this seems like a pretty nuanced endgame where I'm looking back at it, still not super sure what the best course of action is. But if you want to be nice and constructive of what you think the best course of action would have been in this endgame, feel free to let me know. Anyway, congrats to our friend Axon who moves on. He would end up falling to Nighttime Clasher, who would fall to Arrow. All of us teammates knocking each other out. And then Lyle Jeffs ended up capturing his 3rd regional championship. So shout out to Lyle. Shout out to everyone. It's cool to be a part of what people are calling like the most stacked top cut ever at a regional tournament. And lots of epic matches, including epic matches against players and friends that I had never played against in the championship series' history. So all that said, super long video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to hit that like, subscribe to the channel. If you're new, comment down below. All comments are appreciated. And all that said, thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you. Oh, wait. I think for members only, I may make a video detailing like the 7 team drafts I came up with and how I decided on the team I ran to get top 6 here at the most stacked top cut ever. But if you're interested in that, feel free to check out memberships if you want to support the channel. All that said, thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.